Hi everybody in YouTube land. I want to give you guys who have really bad convergence insufficiency or convergence excess and get a lot of visual vertigo and such that can come with it if it's really that bad. I want to give you guys a word of warning. Don't go with the Department of Services for the Blind. Don't. Let me tell you my experiences with them. The first go around with the DSB, they accepted me for having severe convergence insufficiency, and then they removed me from their voc rehab program because I kept having such violent, sudden visual vertigo that I kept falling hard to the ground, and sometimes with vomiting and sometimes without, and sometimes it was like 3 or 4 times a day, and so they got rid of me for that. Well, kind of find out that really bad visual vertigo was kind of part of the really severe convergence insufficiency. It was part of the package. So basically they accepted me for having severe convergence insufficiency, and they removed me as a client for having severe convergence insufficiency. This is in 2005. So when that happened, they sent me over to their so-called independent living department, and that so-called IL whatever gave me only 6 cane tips and a magnifying glass, and that's it. And then I was left on the curb to fend for myself. And the chain reaction from the DSB's really serious lack of help, the chain reaction from that has been profound. It has left me being banned from some places because these places thought I was faking my vision issues and all that, and other places refused to provide Braille. I had to get my Braille instruction from somewhere else. I had to try to find my own cane travel instruction without having much money at all to pay for a orientation mobility instructor. I had to some of O&M, orientation mobility, I had to teach myself, which I really wouldn't recommend to someone with such a profound vision issue. The chain reaction from that has just been horrendous, and even though now my CI is a lot better because of a lot of vision therapy, I'm still dealing with all of the consequences of that. So the way I feel about the Department of Services for the Blind, at least in my state, is I don't care if they close down. In fact, I'd love it if they closed down and somebody else took their place who's better than them. That's what I would really love to see happen. The people who run that place, I have no respect for them at all to do what they did to me when I was as needy as I was and as desperate as I was, and when things were as bad as they were. The way they treated me was just horrific. I would liken it to the callousness and heartlessness of Hitler or Stalin, to have that kind of lack of compassion and lack of heart. And then, well, I finally found some meds that controlled some of the violent vertigo, but they weren't addressing the vision issues, so they really weren't doing enough, but it did help a little. And so I got back into Department of Services for the Blind in 2011 because it's really, for blindness and vision issues type services, there really isn't much here. At least at that time there sure wasn't. And it's not easy getting insurance that's going to cover things like vision therapy and such. So I ended up back in there, and then they didn't really give me any services this second time around because they were demanding all these medical tests be done and weren't willing to give me any services until all of their demands had been met. Basically, trying to force doctors to run neuropsych exams and psychiatric exams and blah blah blah, all these exams that they were demanding was basically, what can I say? No services at all because of forever being stuck in limbo waiting. And just endless bureaucratic red tape. Just endless bureaucracy. No sign of it quitting. On and on and on. And well, I finally did get into vision therapy and all that. Finally, late in the game. And then I started writing complaint letters, and I don't have the money to keep up my printer, so I had to be handwritten. Well, they removed me as a client because my vision supposedly had been improved enough for me to write those complaint letters. So basically it's a roundabout way of removing me as a client for complaining, basically is what it amounted to. So my respect for Department of Services for the Blind is 0. In fact, it's way below 0. It's more like minus 10,000 and 10,999, or maybe minus 100,000. I don't know, but it's extremely below 0. And I'm actually warning people against having anything to do with Department of Services for the Blind, especially if you have a really profound binocular vision disorder such as severe convergence insufficiency with visual vertigo. They know nothing about brain-vision conflict. One would expect them to because they're a blindness agency. You would think they'd know about that, but they don't. And how can I say it? I really feel like I was punished for their ignorance on convergence insufficiency and brain-vision conflict. I feel like I was punished for it, and I'm still dealing with the consequences for basically them kind of, basically punishing me for their lack of knowledge. That's what it feels like. And my resentment toward Department of Services Blind and my animosity toward them is astounding. So I'll just keep up with my mastering the Braille code and etc. Yes, I know Braille. And keep up with that. Try to help people in the future who are blind or visually impaired. And I don't know, maybe I'll eventually become a Braille transcriptionist or something. Who knows what will come with that ever-increasing knowledge and proficiency in the Braille code. But my learning Braille was not because of Department of Services for the Blind. No, it was because of someone else. Anyway, but not the DSB. DSB for me, other than the 6 cane tips and the magnifying glass, has been utterly and completely worthless. In fact, they have done a lot more harm in my life than good. Please, everybody, please, friends don't let friends go with Department of Services for the Blind. If at all possible, please avoid them if you have a binocular vision disorder that causes severe visual vertigo. Have a wonderful day, everybody.